Mrs. Hodakov is a teacher of many, many years, and most recently in Lubavitch Hebrew Academy in Coral Springs, Florida, which is a school that we had the opportunity to visit recently with Menachem Education Foundation's leadership program, and it was really, really beautiful and inspiring. And you have a lot of creative ideas to share with us as to how to really bring about B'Simcha B'Pnimiyus again in your, I think you said fifth grade classroom specifically now, but I'm sure there will be things that we can learn across the grade levels. And then afterwards we can all share. So thank you so much, Mrs. Chodakov.
Okay, so I was listening to Liba Rimler speak, and it's very interesting that, you know, some of the best things that we do as teachers are things that come to us like just out of the blue from what's happening. She didn't plan that a fly was going to come into her classroom, and she didn't plan that the girls were going to run out after the Frosted Flakes. But the idea of taking these things and turning them into a teachable moment is really, you know, the basis of everything that we do. And so sometimes the things that we don't plan end up working out better than things that we do plan. It doesn't mean that we don't have to plan. We still have to plan, but I'll be talking about some of those things that happened to me as well. But, you know, the topic is Simcha, and that when you're B'Simcha, it's easier to get things to be Pnimiyus. So I wanted to start off talking a little bit about that. You know, everybody always asking the question, you know, what does it mean to be happy? How do you achieve happiness? Where does that come from? And something that I've come to appreciate over the years is that true happiness is when you're at peace with yourself, that there's no dichotomy between what you're doing and what you're feeling. Like you're doing something and you're not feeling stressed that you're not doing something else at the same time. That wherever you are, you're fully there. So the most recent time where, you know, I had an interview for a teaching job. So my boss who was interviewing me asked me a very interesting question. Asked me a question like this. So, do you hunger to teach? That was the question, with those words specifically. Do you hunger to teach? Meaning, like, is that something that you really yearn to do? Or is it just something you do because you enjoy it, you're good at it, or you like it, or whatever it is, you need a job? Do you hunger to teach? And I heard this question, I was like, you know, how am I going to answer this question? Like, honestly, do I hunger to teach? And I thought about it. And of course, I wanted to give a good answer. So I said, you know, at different times in life, you know, there are different things going on. Sometimes are more stressful than others. You know, for example, you know, after a baby or during Tishrei or Pesach or whatever it is, it's very, very stressful. And knowing that I have to finish doing this, I have to mark this, I have to make a test, I have to make a worksheet, and I have to be there, and I have to do this. You're not feeling that hunger to teach. But I said, but with all of these things going on different times in life, and then you're in the classroom and things are going well and you're teaching and you're sharing and there's feedback, and all of a sudden you feel at peace with yourself, like, oh, this is where I am supposed to be right now, and it's going well, and this is something that I hunger for. Yes, that when I'm in the right place at the right time and doing the right thing, this is going well. So I really try to take this idea and give that over to my students, meaning that if we can free ourselves of all the stuff, all the other stuff that's going on, all the other stressful things that's going on, and really be present where we are, then we will be much more successful. So for example, you know, I'll tell the kids, like I'll walk in, and this is something that I plan, like I'll be like, oh, I had a really busy morning and I'm so happy to be here now. Like, I'm so happy that I'm here right now and I'm not doing the other things that I was doing 2 hours ago. And they're looking at me funny. They're like, really? Like, you know? And I try to get them to come to that realization also. Like, I'll tell them, you know, like, you know, you were upset about something during lunch, or somebody said something that you didn't like during recess, but, you know, now we're here, let's engage, let's work, let's learn, and you'll see, you'll feel better soon. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But the idea is that when we leave all the other things behind and we feel that satisfaction because we're doing what we really hunger for, which is learning and connection and being engaged, then we are functioning on a much more optimal level. So one of the things that I do in order to try to get across this joy and happiness, doesn't always work, I do have a very challenging classroom this year, but we're trying every day, even until up the last day of school, is that I always talk about how when you teach different subjects, so if you're a teacher that always teaches Chumash and then always teaches Navi or always teaches Halacha, so you don't have it that much. But in 5th grade, I teach all the Judaic subjects. And a lot of times we'll have connections with different things. So we'll have a Sheresh in Chumash, and then the same day that Sheresh is going to pop up in Navi. We learn something in Mishnah, and then all of a sudden it pops up in Halacha. And we have all these things. And I always, when these things come up, I always tell the girls that when these things happen and when we see these connections, it's a sign from Hashem that our learning is going well. Like he's happy with what we're doing, like it's going well and we're doing the right thing. And I actually, it's not something that I'm putting on. I actually do get excited about it. And they actually see it. Like, I'll be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe the same Sheresh and Chumash and Navi in the same day. I can't believe it. Like, when's the last time something like that happened? The same new Sheresh appeared. And different things like that. Like, I remember in the beginning of the year, so we teach Mishnah in 5th grade. We teach Mishnah Rosh Hashanah. And in the beginning of Mishnah Rosh Hashanah, it talks about the different Rosh Hashanahs and how we get judged on Pesach for wheat, then on Sukkot for rain. And Atzeres, we get judged for fruits of the trees. And no one knew what Atzeres was then in the beginning of the year. And we learned Atzeres is Shavuos. They needed to know it. And then today, we were actually learning about the different names of Shavuos. And we got up to Atzeres. And somebody remembered in the class, and they were literally jumping out of their skin, like, we learned that in the beginning of the year in Mishnah. And it was amazing to see that excitement. And they're going back, they're flipping back in their binders, trying to find that worksheet where they wrote down that Atzeres is the time when Hashem judges for the trees, and it's Shavuos, and so on and so forth. And sometimes I'll anticipate it, and I will tell them, like, okay, girls, it's Kislev now, and I'm going to tell you, like, sometime after Pesach, we are going to come across this Sheresh in Chumash, the one that we learned in Navi today. And after Pesach, we're going to come across it in Chumash. Write it down, like, on your divider or on one of your folders. And I want to see who is going to remember when we get up to this, like when we learned it before. And whenever it happens, I don't even always remember, like, oh, today it's going to happen. There'll be a girl literally jumping out of her seat, like, I found it, and I went and I found the paper where I wrote it down, and they're so excited to share it, like this sheresh or this topic or this thing. Another, for example, like somehow it always works out that I teach shaftim, so it always happens that somehow or other we're up to Shiras Devaira whenever it's Parshas B'Shalach. I don't know why that works out, but the Haftarah for Parshas B'Shalach is Shiras Devaira, and I make a big deal about it. I'm like, girls, you're not going to believe this. It's unbelievable. Look at this message that Hashem is sending us. We're learning so well that this week in shul, you can actually hear the words that we're learning in class today. And it's just like, they just can't believe it. And actually this year, it's funny because I daven in the same shul that several of my students do. And I didn't plan to do it, but I saw a bunch of them. And, if your teacher goes over to you in shul, it's like really weird. And I went over to them. I said, girls, come into shul now. We're doing the Haftarah soon. And they looked at me a little funny, and they came and they sat down, and I sat with them and I showed them a place, and they listened, and I saw they were recognizing it. They were saying the words because we learn a song and they know it by heart. And they were very, very excited about it. And they came back and they told all the girls what we did with Hodakov in shul on Shabbos. So that also makes it very exciting. So this idea of finding the connections and using it to show that our learning is going well is very, very exciting. Now, let's just see where we are. Okay. So another thing that brings happiness and lightness and joy into the classroom is trying to make light of situations that are less than optimal. We're always going to have something that we didn't want should happen, or a kid is going to say something or do something that it's really not what we anticipated. And so instead of always, I don't want to admonish all the time and say, no, we can't do this, we're not doing this, or pay attention, or you're not doing your work. We don't want to say those kind of things. So I happened to come across this really funny video, and I did show it to my class. Now, every school culture is different, and if this is not something that you could show to your class, I totally get that. I actually did show it to my principal before I showed it to the class. It's a short little, like less than a minute video of two people, some of you might have seen it, going on an escalator. And all of a sudden the escalator stops and they're stuck on the escalator. and they start calling for help, and they're like, I can't believe it, I'm stuck on the escalator, and they don't have a phone with them. What are they going to do? And they sit down and they're just sitting there, you know, and they're waiting for someone to come rescue them from the escalator. And the kids are watching this and they're like, I can't believe it, they're so dumb. They could just walk up or walk down. What are they doing? They're wasting so much time. And I let them all have their, you know, reactions, and then we turn it off and say, so what could this possibly be a mushal for? Like, what could this possibly mean? Like, you know, if you're in a life situation and you feel like you're stuck, but really there's something that you could do for yourself. And then it gets them talking, and we realize that a lot of times when we think that we're stuck or when we give up on something, there's other things that we could do. And so then instead of when a kid is not following along inside, or a kid doesn't have her Chumash open, or they don't know what subject we're learning, and I want to say to this kid, oh, you know, why aren't you doing your work? Or where's your paper? Or where's your worksheet? And they're just, you know, sitting there and, okay, you know, let's open up our Chumash. I don't know what to do. I don't know where we're up to. What are we learning, right? I look at them, and instead of saying anything, you know, negative, let's try not to get stuck on the escalator. And all of a sudden they realize, oh, right, I'm getting stuck. And they look at the board and they see, oh, that's where I write the psukim every day that we're learning every day. You know, it's going to be there. Perek Beis, psukim vav through yud. That's what we're doing today. Or I don't know which subject in my binder to put this paper in. Okay, well, you know that I write on the top of every paper the subject that it is. So can you look over there? Oh yeah, it's Mishnah. Oh, okay, so I'll put it in my Mishnah section. Wow, I'm so proud of you that you figured that out. You did not get stuck. We're learning Chumash, and they're preparing psukim on their own, and there's a word that they don't, a shayresh that they don't know what it means. Well, you know what? We have a dictionary. I gave out a dictionary at the beginning of every single perek. What can you do? I don't want to get it. I don't want to go get it out. Okay, but don't get stuck on the escalator. Okay, I'll get up, I'll take it out from under my desk, and I am going to look at the dictionary, and I'm going to figure out what the word means. And they realize, oh, I could really do this. I have the ability to help myself. I am not stuck. And it's much easier to say to a kid, don't get stuck on the escalator, than to say, I can't believe you're not doing this, or you don't know what we're doing, or so on and so forth. Sometimes it gets a little problematic because I have kids telling other kids, oh, you're getting stuck on the escalator, you know? And I'm like, you can say that to yourself, but, you know, leave it to the teacher to say it to someone else, you know, look at it for yourself and don't say it to someone else. So because that was so successful, so I actually did this for the first time this year, and I'll show you a picture of what I did. Anybody could do anything else. So it actually came to me this year when I was teaching about Yemei HaSfira, and we were learning about the progression of working on ourselves on Sfira Ha'omer, how from Pesach until Shavuos, that's when we prepare for Kabbalah Satira. And Usfartem Lachem, we're working on refining ourselves, and so on and so forth. And so we were talking about how on Pesach, we do the Karban Omer, and on Shavuos, we do the Shtei HaLechem. The Shtei HaLechem is from wheat, and the Karban Omer is from barley. Now, it's also one of these connections that they all knew already, because in Mishnah, Rosh Hashanah, we learned about Yom Henef, which is on Tezai and Nisan, which is the day that they would do the Karban Omer. So they kind of knew what it was. And we already know that Sa'ira is Meichel Behema, and Tvua is Meichel B'nei Adam. And that our job during this time, going from Pesach to Shavuos, is to refine ourselves from the behema to become the person, from the sa'ira to the tvua. And we work on ourselves in order to get to that goal. And so, you know, sometimes, you know, for fifth graders, for any age, it's hard to really understand this idea. You know, I was listening to Liba Rimler speak, and she was saying how she explained to them about iskafia. And I was actually very impressed, because I don't think I would be able to verbally explain that to my class. But when I show them this picture, I am going to share my screen. Can I share my screen?
Sure, let me give you that permission.
Okay.
There you go. You should be able to do it now. Can't wait.
Let me go here. Let me find, oh, here we go. Share. Okay. Okay. So everybody see the picture?
Yeah.
Okay. So I put this picture on. I have no idea. I just Googled cow and driver's seat. Okay. I don't know where this is from. Maybe I should have checked it out, but whatever. This is what came up. And I asked the girls, I said, what's wrong with this picture? I gave them a piece of paper. cows are driving. Okay, I said, so why can't cows drive? Like, why not? They don't have a license. Okay, well, why not? Why can't cows get a license? Like, I kept on asking them like a question to get them to say more. And finally, they're like, because cows can't think and they can't make the right decisions about driving. And if they're driving, they're going to get into a crash because they don't know what to do. So they finally got that. And I said, okay, we are all the drivers in the driver's seat of our life. Okay. And just like we just learned about moving from Pesach to Shavuos, we're leaving the Michael Behema and we're moving on to the Michael B'nai Adam. Our job is to refine ourselves that we're not the cow in the driver's seat. We're the person, we're the human being, we're the yid, we're the chassid in the driver's seat. And, think about your actions and what you're doing when you're reacting to a situation, and think about who's in the driver's seat. So that became number 2. We have number 1, don't get stuck on the escalator. Number 2, who's in the driver's seat. And, I said, I wonder how this is going to work in real life. So I had a girl who was very upset about something. Something happened during recess and she was upset and she couldn't get over it. She was angry at another girl. And so I was talking to her during dismissal. And, I looked at her and I said, I see you're very upset, but, she was like expressing herself in not such a great way. And I said, who's in the driver's seat? And she looked at me and she said, a very dumb cow. Now I said, you know what? Cows are not dumb. They're just cows. And they don't have the capacity to realize what they're doing or to drive a car because they're not able to think and know what to do. So Baruch Hashem, we're people, the Eibishter put us here in this world with a job and with the ability to discern and to know what's right. And think about everything that you're doing. You had a bad situation. It wasn't good. Whatever happened, you didn't want that to happen. And maybe it shouldn't have happened to you like that. But how are you going to react? Who's in the driver's seat? And instead of lecturing about, you have to make sure that, you're reacting properly and that you're not going to be mean and so on and so forth, and think about the other person, all I have to say is who's in the driver's seat? And they think about it. They're smiling when I say it because they remember this picture that I put on the screen. So that is this idea of trying to bring humor and joy into something that would ordinarily require a little bit more like seriousness and not such fun. So Baruch Hashem, we're not the cows in the driver's seat. We can lift ourselves up and we can empower ourselves. And this really empowered my student. So I'll just conclude with another couple of little things. If I have one more thing that I'll talk about, and then I'll give a few tips of different things that I've done in my classroom. So another thing, talking about happiness, is what makes us happy. Like, we feel happy when we feel like we're in control of what we're doing. So there's being at peace with yourself, which I spoke about, like when you're doing something that you feel good about and that, is going well, so you're good and you feel like you're doing a good thing and you're doing well. The other thing is when you feel like we're in control. Now, we're really never in control, right? So it's just like a facade of control, right? So we have the illusion of control. So I thought, what, maybe if we give our students the illusion, the idea, the facade that they're in control, it will help them keep themselves steady and feel content. So when a person has a choice of anything, it empowers them and it makes them feel like they're in control because they made a choice. Like, like if we say to our kids, not students, like our children, and I say like, oh, do you want to take a bath now or in 5 minutes, right? Oh, it's a big choice. That never works with my own kids, by the way, so I don't know. But, so I said, let me try this in school. So, for example, a lot of times on a test, sometimes we'll give, there's 20 questions, you have to do 19 out of 20, and if you do all 20, it's extra credit. Okay, yay, there's one extra credit question. I actually did this today. I gave a Chumash test, and I put 26 questions on the test. And I wrote on the top of the test, I said, choose 18 questions that you want to do. And just answer those 18 questions. And if you do the other ones, that's fine. And all of a sudden I saw everybody's reading through all the questions and they're making little marks, like which ones they're going to do, which ones they're going to leave out. And it was very, very different than saying do 25 out of 26, do 18 out of 26. That was like empowering. That gave them like wow, I have an edge over here. Like I'm going to choose the things that I know. And you know what? I didn't mark them yet, but from the energy in the room when they were taking the test, like I felt like, wow, they know what they're writing. They're busy writing and writing and writing. And I'm like excited to look at those papers. Um, Another thing that I did was giving them a choice. You know, Baruch Hashem, I'm fortunate in my classroom, we have Chromebooks. Every girl has her own Chromebook. So I know not everybody could do this, but you know, it's the end of the year. We have 2 weeks left of school. You know, it's that end of the year syndrome where the kids are like, you know, school's almost over and they really are not in the mood of, you know, working anymore. And we have to learn about Shavuos, right? And there's so many things. And it's really, you know, we're doing a lot of hands-on stuff and a lot of learning with the project and everything. But, you know, for some girls, it's just hard to go with the task at hand, to do what we have to do. They always want to be doing something else. So what I did was I took all the information that we're learning, that we're doing through different activities and, you know, filling in worksheets. And I loaded all the information in very simple form onto Google Doc, and I put it in my Google Classroom. And I told them, I said, you know, I know that, you know, it's the end of the year, we're getting a little restless, which is totally fine. I totally understand. And there's a lot of things that I want you to know about Shavuos. So I'm going to give you a choice. We're in class now. All the information that you need to fill in your project and make it look beautiful is in Google Classroom. And if you think that's going to work for you, great. So you can get your Chromebook and you can fill in your answers. And I'm still going to be teaching the material to those girls who don't want to do it on Google Classroom, but who want to do it with me and do the activities and so on and so forth. And it was very interesting. Like 5 girls went to get their device and they were quiet the whole lesson. They weren't disrupting. They weren't calling out. They weren't talking. They were working because they felt like I made a choice and everything was there for me. Everything that I needed was there, and they did it. And I was able to teach the rest of the class peacefully, and when it was interesting. So giving them this choice is empowering because it makes them happy. Like, wow, like I can decide how I want to do this. And if I want to do it this way, I could do it this way. And if I want to do it that way, I could do it that way. So that worked. And then, so I'll just say one little short thing, and then I'll just say a couple of interesting activities that I did with my class that make it more exciting and so on and so forth. So, you know, again, like the idea that we can't plan the best things that happen in our classroom are things that we don't plan. So during dismissal one day, a mother came up because she wanted to pick up her kid. I don't know, even though they're not supposed to come in, sometimes they come in. And it's the end of the day. Some kids left already. Some kids are still there. So there's like 8 to 10 kids left in the classroom. And the mother looks at me and says, aren't you, so you're excited, you know, like school's almost over. It's almost the end of the year, you know? And I looked at her and I like, you know, something came to me in like a flash. And I looked at her and I said, I look forward to coming here every single day. And the kids heard what I said, and the mother heard what I said, and like they looked at me, and I'm like, no, really, like I look forward to coming to school every single day. So like it like kind of like sent like a kind of message, like, no, we're happy to be here. Like, no, I'm not counting down the days till the end of the school year. I have so much to teach you and so much to learn with you. So I'm just looking at my thing over here. So I'll just tell you a couple of things that I recently did with my class, you know, similar to some of the ideas that Liba shared. So I teach 5th grade Chumash, I teach Shemais, and I just did this amazing thing. I know there are teachers from my school on here, so they heard my whole spiel already, but we learned the psukim about when Bnei Yisrael left Mitzrayim and the deals of Pesach, and the pasuk says that you can't have chametz in your house and you can't have sa'ar in your house. And if you look in any English Chumash, what is sa'ar? It has different translations, but it says sourdough. Who knows, you know, nowadays everybody knows what sourdough is, but sa'ar is really what we know today as sourdough starter. And the pasuk says, you can't have chametz and you can't have sa'ar, and it repeats it twice. And so what is this? You know, why is it repeating it twice? And there's a whole long Rashi there, and it's very hard to understand. And I decided, I came up with this 5 years ago when I started teaching this Chumash, and I've been doing it every year, and every year it gets better and better, and they love it more and more, is that we make sourdough starter in the class. Because what is sa'ar? They don't have a clue what I'm talking about. So why would they care to know the difference between sa'ar and chametz? Like, they don't know what it is anyhow. Who cares? It's like talking about something that we don't know about. It's like a blind person talking about colors. So I said, okay, we're going to learn what this is. We're going to make sour. We're going to make sourdough starter. And now it's all the rage. Sourdough is very exciting. So I did it. Well, I prepared everything. It took work for me, but I brought in a container for every kid. I put in a cup of flour. The first day we mixed water. We let it for 24 hours. The second day we did the whole thing again. And the third day we did it. And then I said, okay, now we're sending it home, because the first 3 days it's every 24 hours and then it's every 12 hours. And we had a lot of feedback. We have a class chat where all the mothers are posting pictures and how does it look? Does mine look good? Does mine not look good? And kids are doing it. And mothers were texting me. They're like, it's not going to work. It never works. I don't know how to do it. What should I do? And I'm like, listen to me. Don't worry. By Friday, you're going to have active sourdough starter, And every year it amazes me when it works. And it's like the kids are bringing me bread in school now. Okay, like every day, look at the bread that I made. And now, not only that, do they have fun doing it, but they know what sa'ar is. Every single girl got that question right on the Chumash test. Okay, they know what sa'ar is. They know what the difference between sa'ar and chametz is. They know why it has to be repeated, because they understand that one thing is edible, one thing is not edible. One thing could make things chametz, one thing could not make things chametz. And it's an unbelievable, it's science, it's chumash, it's learning, it's hands-on, it's cooking, it's baking, and the mothers really, really like it as well. They really got into it. And even one of the mothers wrote on the chat, she's like, now we know what it means when it says that they didn't have time to let their dough rise when they left Mitzrayim. And I'm like, you're right. We always think about that. Like, what does it mean they didn't have time to let their dough rise? Like, what's the big deal? Like, we make challah and it rises in an hour or two, right? No. That's not what they didn't have yeast in the olden days. You had to make your own yeast. And it took at least a week, minimum a week, to make your own yeast. And they really understood now, what does it mean that they didn't have time for the dough to rise? And then another mother said, and also this whole idea of chametz and matzah having the same ingredients, and it's just, they have the same ingredients, the same letters, and one letter is different. I always wondered about that, because chametz has yeast in it, so it's not really the same ingredients. But no, now we know that it is just flour and water. Flour and water is what you need to make your own yeast. And that is how they had yeast. They didn't go to Publix and buy yeast. They had to make their own yeast. So this was one amazing thing. And I said to myself, I got to think of more of these things. Like, these are the kind of things that we need to do. And there's a lot of other things like that. They're escaping me at this particular moment, but that was the latest thing that I did. Anyhow, so is there any more time? Because I could share one more thing. If not, I'm happy to stop.
Go for it. You have more time.
You want me to say one more thing?
Staying on mute in case any of my kids pop out of bed. But yeah, please do.
So
we're enjoying this so much.
Okay, so this falls into the category of something that you can't plan, but it just puts you in the perspective of trying to think of things. So another thing that I'm sure many of you experience is when you're teaching something in Chumash and they're like, oh, in the video it's not like that. I saw a video in Out of Egypt, it's not like that, or in Queen of Persia, it's not like that. So when I teach the story of the Korban Pesach and the how they put the blood on the doorposts, so we learn in the Psukim how they put the blood on the doorposts. It says, I'm trying to remember the words, lachem la'is. It will be for you a sign. And Rashi asked the question, what does it mean for you a sign? We always say that the blood is for Hashem to know that he has to skip over the Jewish homes. And then we go further in the Rashi, and it says, the blood was a sign for the Yidden. It was not a sign for Hashem. Hashem knows everything. What does he need a sign for? And it was a sign for the Yidden to show them that they don't have to be scared of the Mitzrayim, that they were able to shech the Korban Pesach. And if they put the blood on the doors, they put it on the inside. So while they were sitting and eating their Korban Pesach and getting ready to leave Mitzrayim according to the commands of Moshe Rabbeinu, they should not for a second have a bit of fright that, oh, the Mitzrayim are going to come get us. Look at the blood. It's on your doorpost. You're sitting there in your dining room, and here you see that you were able to shech the Korban Pesach and nothing happened. And I have girls are telling me, no, in the video, no, the blood is on the outside. And I actually never watched the full Out of Egypt. So I had to go home and see how to watch it for a few minutes. My kids were able to show me where it was. And yeah, taka, and again, that's what we always learn that, right? The door of the blood is on the outside. Anyhow, I said, yeah, I don't know. It's a very good question, but Rashi clearly says that the blood was on the inside. And on the spot, this is a few years ago, I said, you know what? Let's write letters to whoever it was, Shazak. Let's write letters about this. And it became an assignment. Said, you need to write a letter using the psukim and the Rashi as a proof that this is inaccurate according to Rashi. And I'm going to choose the best letters and we're going to send them. Anyhow, everybody did. They wrote letters, beautiful letters. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do, right? So I sent them an email, and credit goes to Shazak 100%. A couple of days later, I get back an amazing email from him, beautiful email written to the kids. Wow, I'm so happy that you're learning so well. And I read your letter and I couldn't believe it. I was so embarrassed. How did I miss this Rashi? I guess I have to learn Chitas a little better or whatever. And he said he had to really do his research, and he found there's an opinion in the Gemara that says that it was on the outside. So, Baruch Hashem, but he's so impressed with how they're learning, and he's going to send them, he sent a book for the class or something. Anyhow, this is something that was such a fluke that it happened. But Baruch Hashem, the idea popped into my head that, okay, we're going to do this. Now, I can't do it every year because I did it once, and it doesn't always happen that they ask. But what I do now is I tell this story. When we get up to it in Chumash, I tell the story, and I still have the emails, and I print them out and I give it out. And wow, I can't believe it. And they're busy now. From when I did this, every time we learn, they're thinking, wait, maybe there's something wrong here. I could write a letter about something. And, could we write a letter about this, and I'm like, sure, we could do it, definitely. So that's that. So that was my one more thing.